There are people who come who are interested in transforming aspects of medicine. And then there's people involved in education. And then there's people who just like, as an individual, they want to make a difference in their neighborhood. It goes from small to huge.
Welcome to Landmark Difference Makers, where we interview people making a remarkable difference around the world. Get ready to be inspired. Let's jump in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Seamus Ford, and I want to welcome you to our conversation with Julia Johnson, who's the manager of Landmark's annual conference for global transformation, which is scheduled for May 16th to the 18th of this year. The conference, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, invites participants worldwide to engage in transformative dialogues aimed at making meaningful differences in areas that matter to them. This year's theme, At Play in the World, Risking Failure, encourages attendees to embrace challenges and innovate beyond perceived limitations. Our conversation is going to reveal how you can connect with global leaders and change makers to empower your own commitments for the world. Julia, thank you for being here.
Thank you. This is so fun. I'm so glad to be doing this with you and everyone else here.
Well, this is a little bit of a departure from, our normal format for the Difference Makers podcast. And, one of the ways it's different is that, Julia, you work for Landmark. You're on staff as the manager for the Conference for Global Transformation. And I think for a lot of people, they may not know what the Conference for Global Transformation is. And for people that haven't participated in Landmark programs, I think it would be a good place to start with, why does Landmark have this conference, and why has it been around for 25 years? There's something going on here.
Sometimes I like to think it's the best kept secret at Landmark, but yeah, the Conference for Global Transformation really is like a professional conference. Like you might go to, if you were an educator, you might go to a conference with a bunch of educators. So it's a 3-day academic style conference, and it's for people who are interested in making a huge difference on the planet, a difference that's bigger than they think they're capable of, right? So we empower people to take on what we call commitments for the world. And the entire 3-day conference is conversations with small groups of people, large groups of people, with, a keynote speaker, talking about ways you can break through whatever's been stopping you to make a difference in the world, or just reframe your listening, way to connect with other people that can empower and embrace your commitment for the world. So that's kind of the why.
Well, I just full disclosure, I had what I really consider to be a privilege of speaking at the conference several years back. And, the experience for me of being at the conference and being with people that have this shared commitment, it really was powerful. I mean, I had to kind of change the way I related to myself, in terms of, despite the fact that I've worked for Landmark for many years and I've trained many people to go out and make a difference, I got to see that I had a way of relating to myself where I was small. Who am I, to speak to these big issues? And I think, well, the other thing that really stood out for me about the conference is that there is no topic. A lot of conferences that you may go to really center around a particular theme, or a cause, or an area of concern that a group of people might have. This is different in that it's really anybody up to making any difference that they want to make in the world. Just my last thing to say about that is that that's unique. That's a space of self-expression that I don't think I've personally found anywhere else. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the scope of the kinds of topics that people are concerned for?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really runs the gamut. So there's lots and lots of people who come with an interest in improving the environment, or combating global warming. There are people who come who are interested in transforming aspects of medicine, really the way we frame disease or talk about mental illness or talk about, um, you know, diseases that have heretofore been undiagnosable. So there's a lot of people involved in medicine, and then there's people involved in education, and then there's people who just like as an individual, they want to make a difference in their neighborhood. Like they want everyone in their community to be, committed to recycling or to, provide something for their neighbors. It goes from small to huge. The
Well,
scope of people's interests. Yeah.
and people have a chance to really explore all of that. The structure of the conference, as I recall it, is there are a series of keynote addresses by a number of people that are thought leaders in their field, people that are, um, really have big going concern projects. And then there's a lot of workshops that are hosted by people. And then there's the networking with people. Can you say a little bit more about, how that's structured?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the keynote speakers are people who've been either involved in Landmark or involved in some aspect of making a huge difference on the planet. Like they're beginning to be talked about on a global level or a national level, depending on where they're from. And then the workshops are led by people who are conference attendees, because the real intention of the conference is to have people develop themselves to be able to be a world leader. So being able to lead a workshop to a group of people, being able to write a paper for an academic journal, being able to produce a 5-minute video about what's important to you. These are skills one needs to have if they're going to be making a difference on a global scale. So we provide those opportunities for people to present a paper, a video project, a workshop. And so all of those things happen over the weekend. There's times when you select maybe anywhere from 6 to 10 workshops might be available in one given time slot. So you pick the one that's of interest to you or seems to be related to whatever it is you're dealing with in your life. And then the social gatherings, we have groups where you can choose to like go to a gathering just for people from Europe or just for people from Australia or just from people from Canada or Florida, so people pick a social gathering. That's just a place to network with people who are from the region where you're from. So that's one type of social gathering on Zoom. And then there's others where we have it divided by area of interest. So for instance, people interested in new technology or interested in um, social change or interested in the environment, other things like that. You pick the topic that's closest to what you're interested in, or even if you're not interested, you just want to go meet a bunch of people who are making a difference in the area of, restoring our climate. So that's where you can meet and network with people based on a certain area of interest. The other thing that's unique about the conference, not available with other landmark events, is we actually have the whole conference produced on a website platform where there's a lobby, there's a meet and greet area, there's an area where you can go and speak to some of the leaders leading presentations, like in a smaller, intimate setting. It's kind of like if you can picture at a trade conference, like the expo floor, where all the exhibitors are, and there's booths. So there's booths where wisdom course leaders will be hanging out. There's booths where Landmark's personal coaches will be hanging out, like that. So when you go into those quote unquote booths, which are Zoom rooms, you can talk to the person hosting, or you can ask to go into a breakout room with 3 of your friends. So there's all sorts of different ways you can connect with people, meet new people. And unique to the conference, everyone who's there, you can search on their name, you can send them a friend request. like Facebook, you send them a friend request on our platform, and then they share their contact information with you. You can set up a time to meet after the conference. You can, have text messaging with people who are presenters. So there's a way to really connect by, setting up times to meet after the conference, the people who made a difference, who you want to hear more from.
I want to talk a little more about why the conference exists. And you shared that, people bring commitments that they have for the world. And I think a lot of people might not think that they have a commitment for the world. And I remember in the early days when I first heard about the conference, there used to be a term that was used about called an impossible promise. And
Yes.
what intrigued me about that whole idea is, there's a lot of things that we care about. Just name the person on the planet. We have things that we care about, and some of the things that we care about seem so big, so vast, so uh, beyond what we'll ever be able to impact in our lifetime that um, you can't blame anybody for responding to that with why bother, or it's nice but I'm not going to do anything about it. And yet there's something about this conference that is really about being on the court in the face of however it might occur to you
Yes.
personally. And can you say more about how the conference empowers people that find themselves wanting to make a difference in something that seems much bigger than them?
Yeah, there's so many examples of that happening. First of all, there's almost always one keynote talk or a session about, you know, being able to be with people from the opposing view, or being able to be with people who have a completely different mindset about what it is you're trying to accomplish. So we empower people to be with and get their other people's communications, and not, make themselves wrong, belittle themselves because they didn't make a difference with that one person. So that's one little aspect of it. But because we used to have a course that was called Power and Contribution, and the final weekend was the Conference for Global Transformation. Part of that course was creating an impossible promise, and it being like obvious it would be impossible because no one thought it, you could, I don't know, restore our climate within 20 years or something like that. Things that maybe statistically are impossible, but that it's worthwhile and empowering to even go after something that's impossible because you will make a difference along the way. Anyway, once Power and Contribution, that course was retired, we stopped using that term and we used just a commitment for the world. Now, lots of people say, I don't think the conference is for me because I don't have a commitment for the world and I'm not interested in taking on something like that. Well, the conference is also for people like you who want to empower those who are making a difference, because everyone who comes to the conference makes a difference with someone else. So you just being there listening to a workshop presenter presenting their presentation about what's important to them and what difference they're out to make, you listening, maybe providing input, support, attaboys, that kind of a thing, that makes a difference too. So I also tell people who are landmark graduates that you'll never be so proud than to be at the conference and just witness what all these people are doing out there in the world. And you don't have to feel the need to do something yourself because you can like sleep at night knowing someone's taken on that and that and that. You know what I mean? So it's very empowering, whether you're up to making a difference on a global scale or you just want to support others who are.
Well, there's something that's informing what you just said, which I think this there's a particular kind of self-expression that's available in organizing your life to make a difference. you could, there's so much good television, you probably could finish out the rest of the time you got on the planet not getting around to every great piece of television that's out there. And and I say that not to insult anybody who loves television. I mean, it's wonderful, but there's this, I guess it's an I assert that everybody wants to make a difference. They just don't know where the opportunities are.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that people have maybe a passion that they've buried because they think they don't have enough time, or they're too busy, or they're too small. They're not up to that sort of thing. So yes, if you ask people what's important to them, usually you'll uncover something they're committed to, you know, transforming in their lifetime. And those who have that kind of hidden secret passion that they wish someone would take that on, or they wish they could partner with someone else who's taking that on, that's what you find at the conference. Other people who are interested but haven't really gotten their feet wet yet. The other thing, just to respond to something you said earlier, Seamus, about when you were a keynote speaker, you didn't think you were good enough, or you were the one. Like, why would you be the one to make a difference or have something to say? Almost every keynote speaker we have speak goes through a rigorous, vetting process. And they almost all say that, like, they're just out there doing the difference they make in the world, and they don't realize anyone's been paying attention, or that they've now become nationally recognized. They're just doing what they're doing. Um, so the people who think they're not capable, there's no way they could, they're too young or they're too old, whatever the case may be, I challenge you to look at that another time. Come to the conference and look to see what people are taking on who are in their 80s, you know, and making a difference. And a lot of times it's just recontextualizing an issue that human beings have been dealing with forever. That the kind of recontextualization landmark graduates are great at doing. Like, oh, well, why do we have to talk about it that way? Why don't we talk about it this way? And sometimes just a little movement like that can make a huge difference.
Well, let's explore that a little bit. There's a lot of cynicism about rhetoric and words. Probably in fairness, there's a lot of devaluing of word. With the blizzard of information that's always, you go on social media, it's overwhelming in that way, and a lot of it has no real commitment behind it. And there's something about making the opportunity of, making a difference accessible to other people, or like, you can do it, you can make a difference. I'd like to think, that that's one of the things that we accomplished, through this podcast, is inspiring people to go out and make a difference themselves. But what would you say is available for somebody who, it is just as you described, like, they don't really see themselves as being able to, make that kind of difference, and they're not just getting inspired, but they're getting related to in a different way than they relate to themselves?
That's a tough question to answer. It's like, I think when people come to the conference for the first time, they are present to miracles that have been produced by fellow participants. And that level of inspiration is different, because the person might be leading a workshop and might talk about how they never thought they could do X, and then they just took the first step, and then all of a sudden, well, maybe I'll share a story with you of an example like this. So a gentleman named Daniel Kamanga, uh, originally from South Africa. I think he lives in Kenya now, but I'm not exactly sure. But he came to his very first conference several years ago. He saw a poster video, what we call poster videos now, but this was back when we were in person, and he saw a poster display, like an exhibitor booth, about someone who was making a difference with women in Africa by holding like entrepreneurial type training for women from impoverished rural communities who had no access to secondary education. So he saw this person's poster and was so inspired, he decided to take on the same thing in his country. So he went back and he started working on things that he thought would make a difference in terms of leadership, actually, in the entire continent of Africa. And formulating ideas. He started a nonprofit, and he went back to the next conference, and he had produced his own poster about the work he was beginning to do
We
in.
should say a little bit about what a poster is.
Okay, so nowadays a poster is a 5-minute video. So that's pretty easy to visualize, right? A 5-minute video about what you're passionate about, what you're taking on, where you want other people to support you, or what your successes or challenges have been in getting to this place in life, to make this kind of difference. So, but before we had videos, they were like a science project display on a table in a big ballroom. So someone would have a big poster, a literal poster. Maybe it's a tripod, whatever they call those three-sided posters. And they're talking about the difference they're making, what challenges they're experiencing, what successes they've had. And it's about getting the thing you're passionate about out to a global audience. So
Mm,
it's a way of expressing what's important to you and what you'd like to see transformed in the world. Well, when Daniel presented his poster, all sorts of people were enrolled in supporting him. Like people from Australia and Europe said, I want to join your nonprofit. And so it was like he didn't expect any of that.
mm,
But all sorts of people were at the conference said, I want to join in on make a difference with you in your project.
mm,
So, the next year, I think he had a workshop. He had people now who I knew personally who were like on his board of directors from all these countries around the world. And then he became a keynote speaker. So he just came open, listening, his first conference, not with an idea of anything he was going to take on. He just came to listen. And he went away with the, little, just fledgling idea of a project he wanted to take on. And then and he became a global leader in Africa. Basically, he's led, I think, seminars to 1,000 women in Africa, about taking on leadership roles in their communities. And it's exploding.
mm, mm. Well, I have a personal question for you. You've been at this for a long time, and it's a lot of work to present this conference. You can't even really capture how much work it is. I got a glimpse of it, in working with you. What what is it that has you year after year putting in this level of work?
Um, it's now my life's work because, well, I'll just say the very first conference I went to, my first reaction was I was really mad. I was really mad no one had told me about this before. Like I had been assisting around Landmark for 35 years at the time. I had been assisting around the wisdom division specifically for 11 years, and I had never heard of the conference. It was only open to wisdom graduates at that point. So I went to my first conference and I was just shocked because this is what I'd been waiting for my whole life. Like the reason I assisted at Landmark for 35 years was I was waiting for the day when Landmark graduates were going to be making a difference all around the world and everyone would know about it. Like newspapers would be writing about the difference Landmark had made in transforming the planet. I really thought that's what was going to happen in my lifetime. And here I saw it like firsthand, and I couldn't believe this existed and no one had told me about it.
Um, 'cause it ties to two things. One, we want to, there's something different about this year's conference that we should let people know. But before that, you talk about that. There's an energy that you're bringing to this conversation, and and an energy I know you bring to the conference itself. And we talked earlier about being at work on something that you're not Pollyanna. You know that statistically, a lot of these things are not going to come to fruition. And there's a lot of world events that are in the way of these things happening. But how does somebody keep passionately pursuing something with no loss of enthusiasm in the face of the just reality?
I love that question because that ties so closely with our theme this year is like how to keep going after failure, how to transform your relationship to failure such that you're anticipating it and relishing it and looking forward to it because it's the next training and development opportunity to get to the next level. But anyway, so after that first conference, I came back and couldn't stop sharing about it because like I took the S training when I was 17 and I came out saying I told my father I didn't want to go to college because I wanted to make a difference in the world. And he's like, well, you should go to college to do that. But I mean, that's what I came out wanting to do and not knowing anything about how to do that. But that's why I was assisting all those years. And I never thought 8 billion people would take the landmark forum. I didn't think that would be the access to transforming, what it means to be a human being. I really thought people like you and me, doing our projects in our neighborhood at the state level or the national level would make that difference. And like I said, I saw that happening. And each year I see more and more of that happening. People come, they roll up their sleeves, they start sharing in other calls. We have lots of other things that people can do year round who love the conference, like inquiry calls and a special inquiry program. So I hear back from people who say, like the story I shared with you about Daniel Kamanga. They say, oh my God, I heard this at the conference. I've decided to take on this. And now you wouldn't believe it. My senator's calling me. I've been asked to speak, at the United Nations. I like people are doing that level of work.
Well,
It,
it's something I hear in what you said. Um, going back to what first inspired you to make a difference is, there's no methodology by which you can track accurately who inspired who.
yes.
But I think in physics there's the butterfly effect. You can't, a butterfly flapping its wings could be responsible for a hurricane on the other side of the planet. Um, it just all it means is the impossibility of being able to track it, but it doesn't it doesn't deny that that actually is part of this. And I really hear in what you're saying that there is an impact that you have when you're at work like this that does extend beyond you. It does extend beyond your lifetime, and there's no need to worry about getting credit, just trusting that there is an impact being made.
Yeah. And I see the evidence day in and day out. So, when you're completely resigned based on something happening in the world or political situation in your country, you can go network with the people at Landmark who are involved in the Conference of Global Transformation, who are, like I said, rolling up their sleeves, getting to work, doing this, doing that. It's like, oh, there's a whole nother life out there happening. I could participate with those people who are committed to making a difference and are keeping themselves inspired and keeping themselves rejuvenated and going to this call and that call too. So that's what keeps me going is it's working. You know, when I first became the conference manager, that was 13 years ago. In the wisdom course area, the division of Landmark called the wisdom course area, people used to talk about the conference being the greatest reunion every year of wisdom graduates because hundreds and hundreds of graduates come from all over the world and meet in San Francisco for an in-person conference. And they loved the socialization. And it took me years to get people to stop saying that because it's not a reunion. It's not, that's not its intention. Its intention is to train and develop people to make a difference on the planet. And now it's really, really happening. Like I have evidence, I have, it's case
Yeah.
studies of it happening, and nothing makes me happier.
Well, so this year is a distinct opportunity, the
Yes.
25th anniversary year. Particularly people that are landmark graduates, what do they need to know?
Right. So, like I said, the conference used to only be open to wisdom graduates. So this year, the executives at Landmark have given me the greatest gift of my life, which is opening the conference to all Landmark graduates. It's a it's a first time ever, We've been doing this conference for 25 years, even though it's been somewhat secret in this one, division of Landmark. It could really explode. There could be 10,000 people coming to next year's conference as a result of these new opportunities. And the more people come means the more people are going to be taking on commitments for the world. The more people are going to, enroll in our year-round program, which is basically practically free. It's like, because we're just here to empower and support people making a difference. This isn't a profit-making division, the Conference for Global Transformation. We've kept the price way lower than what a professional or technical conference would be, because we want more people looking to take on making a difference
Mhm.
in the world.
And what do people need to know who've not been around the wisdom area or participated in wisdom? What do they need to know about how to participate in the conference?
Well, you do need to have a staff member from the Wisdom Course area actually process your registration, because we have to actually, bypass what has always been a prerequisite. So you would have a conversation with me or a Wisdom Course leader or anyone you might know works in the Wisdom division. Of course, you know, people know how to reach me. You can call me anytime.
Well,
So I would,
can we
yes.
give people an email who are interested?
Oh, yeah.
Great, there it is. Before we wrap up, um, I I just want to give you an opportunity to speak to this group of people that we just talked about. Somebody that, maybe they've done done the Landmark Forum, didn't know that this was an opportunity. Just give you an opportunity to make a direct invitation to whoever may be listening or watching this.
Well, first of all, as a Landmark graduate, you will never be so proud as what you will see at the Conference for Global Transformation, that these people on our behalf, your behalf, are out there making a difference around the world. And you can be proud that you're part of that community that's doing that. And I do invite people to call me and have a conversation with me, because the conference is complex. There's lots of things that happen simultaneously. You need to get a briefing on how to navigate through our website platform where all that social networking is available. And so speaking to someone who can, hold your hand a little bit and get you through the whole process is ideal.
Great, great. Well, Julia, I really thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And um, my personal endorsement of participating in the conference is 100%, because I think it, as you said, Julia, it is just an extraordinary opportunity to be with people who are for everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, no one talks about the weather. What I mean is, like, every conversation you have with anyone is about what's possible in the world that's not happening now. Like, it's all the conversations about making a difference. So it's just an incredible environment to be in.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Landmark Difference Makers. If you're inspired by what you heard and you want to learn more about Landmark's programs or explore upcoming episodes, visit landmarkforumnews.com. to find resources, event details, and more stories of people making extraordinary impact around the globe. If you are already a part of the Landmark community, check out the Landmark subscription, designed to provide ongoing support in creating a life you love. Visit landmarkworldwide.com to learn more. Until next time, keep creating, keep contributing, and keep making a difference.